The desert motor pool was alive with noise. Engines roared, metal clanged, boots scraped against concrete baked white by the sun. Soldiers moved in tight groups, laughing, shouting, trading insults the way people do when danger is familiar enough to joke about. A convoy had rolled in late the night before, vehicles scarred by shrapnel and sandstorms, and now the mechanics were racing the clock. Another mission was coming. There was always another mission. That was when she walked in. She wasn't announced. No rank shouted her name. No officer turned to greet her. She just appeared at the edge of the motor pool like someone who belonged there so completely that she didn't need permission. She wore faded coveralls, sleeves rolled up, stained black and brown with grease that had soaked into the fabric like ink. Her hair was tied back in a messy knot, strands escaping and sticking to the sweat on her neck. Her face was smudged with oil, a dark streak across her cheek like war paint. Heavy boots thudded against the ground as she crossed the concrete with a slow, deliberate stride. A few soldiers noticed her and snorted. "Hey," one of them muttered to his friend, jerking his chin in her direction. "Did the auto shop lose one?" Another laughed. "Maybe she's here to change oil on a Humvee." Their voices weren't quiet. They didn't care if she heard. This place ran on hierarchy, and she looked like she sat at the bottom of it. She didn't react. She stopped beside an MRAP with its hood open, steam hissing faintly from the engine bay. Without asking permission, she leaned in, her hands disappearing into the machinery like they already knew where to go. Her fingers moved fast, confident, tugging, tightening, adjusting. A young private stared at her. Ma'am," he said, unsure whether that word even applied. "This vehicle's tagged for maintenance. We're waiting on." She didn't look at him. "Fuel injector lines misaligned," she said calmly. "If you roll this out like this, it'll seize under load." The private blinked. What?" She straightened slightly, wiping her hands on a rag that was already filthy. "Tell your sergeant you've got a 15-minute fix if you don't want a dead truck in the kill zone." The private stood there, mouth half open, as she went back to work. A few feet away, a group of operators watched with amusement. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered with a beard that screamed experience, smirked. "You see this?" he said to his team. "We got a grease fairy now." Another chuckled. "What? You didn't hear? New morale program. Let the mechanics wander free." They laughed, the sound rolling easily out of them. They were seasoned, confident, untouchable. Or so they thought. The woman finished tightening the line and stepped back. She glanced around, eyes sharp, scanning the vehicles, the people, the setup. Her gaze lingered on the group of operators for just a second longer than the rest. Not offended, not intimidated, just measuring. She moved on. The jokes continued as she crossed the motor pool, stopping at another vehicle, then another. Everywhere she went, she left quiet instructions behind. Not loud, not authoritative, just precise. "Swap that hose. Check your torque. That seal won't hold under heat." Some listened, some didn't. One staff sergeant finally had enough. He stormed over, irritation written all over his face. "All right," he snapped. "Who the hell are you, and who told you to start touching my vehicles?" She turned to face him fully for the first time. Up close, her eyes were striking, cold, steady, and old in a way that had nothing to do with age. "Relax," she said evenly. "I'm fixing a problem before it gets people killed." The sergeant scoffed. "You a contractor?" "No. Motor pool assigned you here." "No." He folded his arms. "Then you don't belong here." For a moment, the air felt tight. A few nearby soldiers slowed their work, sensing friction. She studied him, then nodded once. "Fair enough." She turned away. The sergeant smirked, satisfied, already turning back to his men. Then she stopped and added casually, "When your lead vehicle loses power in the first 5 minutes outside the wire, remember this conversation." That wiped the smirk right off his face. Before he could respond, a sudden shout echoed across the motor pool. "Commander on deck." Everything snapped into motion. Conversations died, tools dropped, soldiers straightened, boots slamming together as bodies aligned instinctively. Even the loudest jokers fell silent. A group of officers entered the motor pool, flanked by armed escorts. At their center walked a man whose presence alone changed the temperature of the space. He wasn't flashy, no unnecessary gestures. His uniform was clean but worn, the kind that spoke of field time, not parade grounds. His posture was perfect, not because he was trying, but because it was ingrained into him at a level most people never reached. The SEAL team commander. Whispers rippled through the ranks as he approached. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew his reputation. His eyes swept the motor pool, assessing, cataloging. Vehicles, soldiers, readiness. Then his gaze landed on the woman in grease-stained coveralls. She stood beside an engine block, hands dirty, face streaked with oil. The commander stopped walking. That alone was strange enough to draw attention. For a split second, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, to the absolute shock of everyone watching, the SEAL team commander did something no one expected. He snapped to attention. Boots together, back straight, chin level. A perfect salute followed, sharp and precise. "Ma'am," he said loudly, voice carrying across the motor pool. "Permission to speak." Silence crashed down like a dropped wall. Mouths fell open. The staff sergeant who had just dressed her down felt the blood drain from his face. The operators who had been laughing stared in disbelief. The woman turned slowly. She looked at the commander, then at his salute. For a moment, her expression didn't change. Then she sighed softly. "At ease," she said. He lowered his hand immediately but remained rigid, respect written into every line of his posture. "You're going to ruin my cover if you keep that up," she added quietly. The commander allowed himself the faintest hint of a smile. "With respect, ma'am, you never were very good at staying unnoticed." The motor pool might as well have been on another planet. No one spoke. No one breathed. Every assumption made in the last 10 minutes lay shattered on the concrete floor. The woman glanced around at the frozen soldiers, the stunned sergeants, the operators who had mocked her. Then she looked back at the commander. "Your vehicles are compromised," she said calmly. "3 critical failures waiting to happen. I was fixing the most dangerous one." "Yes, ma'am," he replied without hesitation. She wiped her hands again and leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You sending them out tonight?" He nodded. 0200. "Then you've got 4 hours to unfuck your logistics," she said bluntly. "Or you'll be carrying bodies back instead of stories." The commander didn't flinch. "Understood." She straightened, finally pulling a patch from inside her coveralls and slapping it onto the commander's chest. It was worn, faded, but unmistakable. The room collectively realized something terrifying. The mechanic covered in grease wasn't just a mechanic. And whatever she really was, she outranked every assumption they had ever made. No one in the motor pool moved. Not the operators, not the mechanics, not the staff sergeant whose authority had just evaporated in front of everyone. The woman peeled the patch back off the commander's chest and tucked it into her coveralls like nothing extraordinary had just happened. To everyone else, that small piece of fabric might as well have been a thunderbolt. The commander turned sharply. "All personnel," he barked, voice snapping like a whip, "resume operations." Now. They obeyed instantly, but the energy had changed. Hands shook, eyes kept drifting back toward her. The jokes were gone, so was the arrogance. The woman walked toward a battered transport truck parked near the far fence. Its engine ticked as it cooled, metal popping softly. She climbed onto the bumper, leaned into the engine bay, and started working again like she hadn't just detonated the hierarchy of the base. The commander followed. That alone sent a message. He stopped beside her, lowering his voice. "I didn't know you were here." "You weren't supposed to," she replied. "This place leaks like a sieve." He nodded grimly. "Still doing your thing, I see." She smirked faintly. "Someone has to keep you idiots alive." He almost laughed, but then his expression hardened. "They mocked you. I noticed. I'll handle it." She shook her head. "No, you won't." He hesitated. "Ma'am." She finally turned to face him fully. Up close, the scars were more visible. Thin white lines across her knuckles. A faint burn mark climbing her forearm, partially hidden by grease. The kind of marks that didn't come from a garage. "Let them think whatever they want," she said quietly. "The battlefield corrects arrogance faster than lectures." The commander studied her face, then nodded once. He knew better than to argue. Across the motor pool, the staff sergeant whispered urgently to one of the mechanics. "Who is she?" The mechanic swallowed. I don't know. But commanders don't salute nobodies." The convoy rolled out 4 hours later. Every vehicle had been checked twice. Then a third time, by her. She didn't ride with them. She never did. She stood at the edge of the base as engines roared to life, dust spiraling into the night air. Operators locked and loaded, faces hidden behind gear and darkness. Some of them glanced her way as they passed. No laughter now, only unease. One of them, the bearded one who had joked the loudest, paused briefly. He hesitated, then nodded at her. "Thanks, for the fixes," he said awkwardly. She nodded back. Bring them home. The convoy disappeared into the darkness. 3 hours later, hell broke loose. The first explosion rocked the desert like a thunderclap. Alarms screamed across the base. Radios erupted with overlapping voices, panic punching through discipline. Contact. Contact front. Vehicle 3 is down. Engine failure. Ambush. Multiple shooters. The operations center came alive in seconds. Screens flared to life, feeds flickering with night vision chaos. The commander leaned over the table, jaw clenched, eyes scanning data faster than anyone else in the room could follow. Then it happened. Vehicle 1 reporting loss of power. The commander's heart dropped. That was the lead truck. Static crackled. We're dead in the water, taking fire. The feed cut. The woman was already moving. She slipped into the operations center like a shadow, grease-stained coveralls completely out of place among the clean uniforms and glowing screens. Pull the telemetry, she snapped. An officer turned, startled. Ma'am, this area is. Now. Something in her voice froze him. He obeyed. Data flooded the screen. Her eyes locked onto it. There, she said. Fuel pressure spike, not mechanical failure. The commander turned to her. IED. No, she replied sharply. Sabotage. The room went silent. She leaned closer, fingers flying across the keyboard. They contaminated the fuel upstream. Microparticulate. It clogs under sustained load. I warned your sergeant. The commander swore under his breath. Can they bypass? They can if they know how. He grabbed the radio. Vehicle 1, this is command. Cut injector line 2. Reroute pressure manually. You have 90 seconds. Static. Heavy breathing. Say again. Do it or you die. A pause. Then. Roger. The seconds dragged like hours. Gunfire echoed through the speakers. Shouts. Explosions. Then. Power restored. The room erupted in relief. The woman exhaled slowly. But she wasn't done. They're hitting them from elevated ground, she said. That ridge line. An intelligence officer frowned. We didn't have enemy presence there. She shot him a look. Then your intel is garbage. The commander didn't hesitate. Air support. Too late, she said. They'll be gone. She studied the map again, then pointed. But not if your rear element moves now. Cut them off here. The commander relayed the order. Minutes later, the radio crackled again, this time with something different. Excitement. We've got them. Multiple enemy down. The ambush collapsed. By dawn, the convoy limped back through the gates. Vehicles scarred. Ammo depleted. But every operator alive. The bearded SEAL climbed down from his truck, blood smeared across his sleeve, not his. His eyes locked onto the woman standing near the fence. He walked straight to her and stopped. Then, without a word, he snapped to attention. One by one, the others followed. The motor pool filled with the sound of boots coming together. She looked at them, surprised. The bearded SEAL swallowed. You saved our lives. She shook her head. You saved yourselves. I just hate sloppy logistics. The commander stepped forward. They deserve to know, he said. She hesitated, then nodded. The commander turned to the assembled soldiers. This woman, he said, voice steady, is the reason several teams are alive today. He paused. Former Tier 1 operator. Joint Special Warfare Task Force. Callsign classified. Record sealed. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She walked away after a mission went bad. Not because she failed, because she survived when she shouldn't have. The woman stared at the ground. I owe her my life, the commander continued. And now, so do you. Silence. Then the staff sergeant stepped forward, face pale. Ma'am, she raised a hand. Save it. He froze. Next time, she said calmly, judge the work. Not the uniform. She turned and walked away. By noon, she was gone. No farewell, no ceremony, just an empty space in the motor pool and a lesson burned into everyone who had laughed that day. Somewhere out there, engines would keep running. And arrogance would keep getting people killed. Unless someone like her was watching.